live with you today to tell you about a very, very special announcement that I can't wait to share with you. But I want to see how many of you are coming in on live. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. I love seeing what a global community we have. Drop it in the comments. Who else is online right now? I see Elena joining. I see Craig. I see Sam. I see Emily. Thank you so much for being here. Aisha, good to see you. TJ, it's good to see you, man. I hope you're well. Kyle, wonderful to see you joining live as well. We've got over 3,500 people live right now. Let's see. Press that like button, press that love button, and press that share button and let everyone know that you're joining me live. I've got a very special guest that's about to join in a moment. If you listen to On Purpose, my podcast, you will recognize him. He's the only guest, well, one of three guests who've been on twice. Very, very excited to have him join today. You're going to learn a lot. Kelsey, so good to see you. Thank you so much. Venturi, good to see you as well. Thanks for being here. We've got over 4,500 people live right now. Press that like and love button and press share as well. I'm going to see if he is live here to join. Let's have a look. Oh, Josh, you're live. I see you. Simply Jen, good to see you as well. All right. Here we go. I'm bringing the one and only Dr. Daniel Amen live. I just sent you a request, Dr. Daniel Amen. I hope you got it from me. Oh, there we go. We're live. Here we go, everyone. I'm speaking to the one and only Dr. Daniel Amen. His new book is out. It's called Your Brain is Always Listening. Tame the Hidden Dragons that Control Your Happiness, Habits, and Hang-Ups. Dr. Daniel Amen, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, Jay. So great to see you.
It has been such a long time. I feel like it's been far too long since I've seen you. And I miss hearing your incredible insights in my life, but I'm so glad to be blessed with this awesome new book that you have. Everyone who's interested in the conversation I have today with Dr. Daniel Amen, the book is available everywhere books are sold. Your Brain is Always Listening. Dr. Daniel Amen, I was saying that you're one of the few guests on my podcast who's been on twice. Now we're doing this live together. I always feel like I learned something huge from you. Tell us today, what's happened to our brains in the last 12 months? You know, what has happened? Because I think that's where I'd like to start today, because I think everyone's trying to figure out what they need right now. But I think in order to do that, we need to know where we've been. So what's been happening to our brains in the last 12 months?
So it's been just about a year. And I remember you interviewed me for the End of Mental Illness. It was launched the week before the pandemic. And I was scheduled to go to New York, a whole tour thing. It got canceled. And I remember that night I wrote down, mental hygiene is just as important as washing your hands. That we need to disinfect our thoughts and not let the ants, the automatic negative thoughts, and the dragons, which we'll talk about, ruin our minds. And then I wrote down this term, pandemic squared, that this pandemic, if we don't handle it properly, it's going to trigger a mental health pandemic, which clearly it has done. That depression has tripled, that I've never seen suicidal behavior like I've seen it in the last year. In 40 years of being a psychiatrist, never seen anything like that. Addictions through the roof. Children, self-harm behavior has gone up 400%. And it's just horrifying and heartbreaking. Now, on the other side, introverts have loved this time, because they get energy from being alone and they get stressed out from being with extroverts. So I've seen positives, also positives in the fact that parents have dramatically more time with their children. And we've had 3 generations of 2-parent working families, which has stressed families because they're running flat out all the time. And now they're having long dinners together. They're cooking together. And so if the parents manage their own minds, it's actually a historic opportunity to solidify the bond they have with their children. Now, if the parents do a bad job of managing their mind, it just makes what's going on with kids even worse. And so always it starts with the adults.
I mean, that's a really comprehensive understanding of what's been going on. I really liked how you've really shared a 360-degree view of what we're experiencing. And one of the reasons why I've always loved your work is that you have this incredible ability to bring together both spiritual and medical dimensions in the healing of humanity. Now, this new book of yours that's out right now, for anyone who's just joined, Your Brain is Always Listening. Tell us the thesis of this book. When I first read the title, Your Brain is Always Listening, I thought, oh gosh, I better be really careful about everything that's going on. Tell us about what drew you to pick this title and to share this message with us.
It's about all the influences that impact how our brains and our minds work. And many of them people have no idea about. The book is actually divided into 6 sections. The first section is the dragons from the past that are still breathing fire on our emotional brains. And there's 13 of them, and all of us have them to one degree or another. People can actually take a test, knowyourdragons.com, and see which of them. But for example, my primary dragon is the abandoned, invisible, and insignificant dragon. I'm one of 7 children. I was 3rd, completely not special. I don't know if it's true in your family, but in Middle Eastern families, the oldest boy is the golden child, and everybody else sort of doesn't matter that much. And so I was 2nd, which gave me a huge advantage because I didn't have to go in the grocery business. But I always knew I was 2nd, and that had an impact on me. There's also the inferior and flawed dragon. So common. That is what's driving the epidemic of teenage suicide. Girls especially feeling less than other people. The anxious dragon, the most common one. The wounded dragon, very common during the pandemic. Grief and loss, hopeless and helpless. My favorite dragon of all of them, though, is the ancestral dragon. This is where your issues aren't yours. They belong to your mother, or they belong to your grandfather. And understanding and taming that dragon just helps you so much. So that's part 1. Part 2 is the they, them, and other dragons. How your brain is always listening to other people, alive and dead. And so understanding that influence, if you will. And then there's a section on the ants that feed the dragons, the automatic negative thoughts. And there's this one exercise I love. Give me 100 of your worst thoughts and I'll change your life, because I'll teach you how to get rid of them. And then the bad habit dragons. Your brain is always listening to what you allow it to do. Because when you do a bad habit, whether it's interrupting or not telling the truth or overeating, or the worst one of the bunch is the oblivious bad habit dragon, where you're just never thinking about your brain, your health, your relationships. You're just on automatic pilot. Once you allow your brain to do something, it wires in that behavior, making it more likely you're going to do it again. And so there's this great section on how to change, how to tame these bad habit dragons. And there's there's an addicted dragon section. And I redid the 12-step program. So the original 12-step program, you know, the Alcoholics Anonymous and all the other Anonymous, was written 85 years ago. And I'm a fan of 12-step programs, right? You have a problem, go to a 12-step program, but there's no neuroscience in it. And I thought, well, what if a neuroscientist wrote the 12-step program? And there's a lot of neuroscience in it. And I just love it. Like there's a science to getting your cravings under control. And there's a section on drip dopamine, don't dump it. right? Too many people are involved in dumping dopamine with risky behaviors or drugs or alcohol. And I'm like, no, you'll wear out your pleasure centers. And if you wear out your pleasure centers, you're going to feel flat all the time. And then you'll like this section, it's the scheming dragon section. This is the influence of society on us, from the food pushers, the toxin pushers, the newsmongers, the contact sports dragons. We cheer at brain damage. I mean, when you really think about that, it's not really the most empathic thing to do. And the holiday dragon, which is, well, it's the holidays. I should eat badly, or I should not take care of my health. And then the last section's on the dragon tamer. So if you want to get control of your brain and your mind, this is a really fun book, practical book to read.
I love that. I'm seeing some great thoughts from what you were sharing earlier. Power of Positivity says, love that. From the doctor. We've got another comment here says, yes, I had to deal with ancestral dragons for the last year. How many of you know your dragon? While you were listening to Dr. Daniel Amen, comment with which dragon you think you have in your life, probably multiple ones. Cece says, can't wait to dive into this book. That's awesome. I love it. There's so much positivity here. Generational trauma is in focus at the moment. You're sparking a lot of thoughts, Dr. Daniel Amen, that are beyond even just looking at the mind and mental health. I mean, a lot of this leads into what we're seeing in society today as well. And for someone who just said, Jay, show me the cover of the book. This is Your Brain is Always Listening. That's the book we're speaking about. It's available now. And you can go and order it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and everywhere else books are sold. The thing that what I find fascinating when you're walking through all these dragons is almost that what I feel like you're doing in this book is you're diagnosing what our challenges are. Like there's a diagnosis. And I think that one of the challenges we have is that we aren't fully aware of the dragons that are inside of us. We're not fully aware of diagnosing the challenges that we're facing. Why is it so important? Well, first of all, why did you use dragons? Why dragons? Like what was the reason for that symbolism? Because I've never heard you talk about dragons before this.
No, it's brand new for the book, but I'm a huge fan of J.R.R. Tolkien and The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. And Tolkien said, it's not a story worth telling if there are no dragons. And so I have this visual of dragons breathing fire on your emotional brain. And the dragon tamer, which is your frontal lobes, not being able to manage them. And I want to activate your frontal lobes. That's why the last part is the dragon tamer. So we can calm these down. But if you don't know what your issues are, and your dragons are always fighting with your wife's dragons and with your parents' dragons. And so I think when everybody knows their dragons, it gives you more empathy. For other people, like Tana, who I know you've interviewed, and she adores you. She has 10 of the dragons. And so knowing what her dragons are, I'm going to try not to fire them up because they'll bite me. And I don't want them biting me.
Anastasia says, dragons definitely make sense. I've got a lot of other people here saying, Ashley says, yeah, I like it. It's playful. Makes it more easier to digest. I can see a lot of the positivities. To dragons sound better than demons, says Laz, which is great. I love it. People are definitely loving the iconography. I had no idea you were such a Tolkien fan, so I love learning that too. But that's my bad. I just dropped my phone. Tell us a bit, Dr. Amen, about what are some of the most practical ways to start the journey towards taming the dragons that we have. And I appreciate that the different dragons need different medicine or different training. What's the taming and training? What are some of the first principles that people can take, or some of the ones that you expand on in the book that people can dive in deeper in the book that you really think are going to help them?
Well, one of the most common dragons is the hopeless and helpless dragon, was the pandemic just goes on. And we think it's over and open up, and then we get a surge. And there's a concept called learned helplessness, which means I try to get better and it doesn't work. And I try and it doesn't work. And pretty soon I give up and I stop trying. And a lot of our patients, when we test them, we do a neuropsych assessment on them. They show up very high in negativity bias, where their brains just go almost automatically to what's wrong. And so there's a whole section in the book on positivity bias training. How can I train my brain to look for what's right rather than just what's wrong? Now, I'm actually not a fan of positive thinking. I'm a fan of accurate thinking. You need some anxiety now, so you make good decisions. Is painful. And so start every day with today is going to be a great day. When you wake up, when you hit the floor, it's on my to-do list, top of the to-do list. Today is going to be a great day. And I also have a line from the movie Castaways with Tom Hanks. Love that movie. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, see the sunrise, and see what the tide brings in. He got lost on an island for like 4 years and was suicidal. And that's how he got over. It's like, tomorrow's going to be another day. What's going to be good that's going to happen that day? Start every day with today is going to be a great day. And then throughout the day, look for the micro moments of happiness. What are the smallest things that happen that make you happy? During the pandemic, I figured out how to make what I call the world's healthiest, most delicious, brain healthy hot chocolate. Because cocoa is a superfood that's great for your brain. It's just all the other crap they put in chocolate is bad for you. So I figured out this recipe, organic, unsweetened vanilla almond milk. Costco, it's like $8. And chocolate stevia. There's a company called Sweet Leaf. And heat up the almond milk, put in the raw cacao and a little chocolate stevia. It's delicious. And just the first taste of it is one of my micro moments. And then I focus on whether it's holding Tana's hand or looking in her eyes. She has these stunningly beautiful golden eyes. Petting the dog. I'm looking for what's right during the day rather than what's wrong. And then before I go to bed at night, I go on a treasure hunt. Sort of like, you know, one of Tolkien's great adventures. And I ask myself, what went well today? And I'm serious about going to find what went well. Now, I'm a realist, and I know a lot of things have gone wrong. But as an example, my dad died in May. And it was heartbreaking for me. He was hard for me, and I talk a lot about him in the book. In fact, I have a new public television special with Tana that's airing nationwide now. He got COVID, got better, but never really, ended up with long COVID and then died. And I remember the night he died, or the night of the day he died, I went to bed, and because it's my habit, right? We talked about habits. As I laid down, I went, what went well today? And then my brain went, are you serious? You're going to do this tonight, right? Because we all have the critic in our head. You know, I call it the prosecutor in our head. But it's what I do. And I remembered this great interaction between my mom and the police officer. I'd been doing a program with the Newport Beach Police Department for the last year on creating a brain-healthy police department. They need it now more than ever with the stresses they're going under. And one of my students was the officer on the scene. And it was just hysterical. And even in the moment of sadness, that my mom was joking with him. Because he said, Mrs. Amon, we have to do an investigation. And she looked at him and she said, do you think I was cheating on him and had him murdered?
Oh my God.
And she was, I knew she was kidding. And then I thought about all the people who texted me that day with love. And then I remember sitting with him before the mortuary took him away and just holding his hand. And I just remembered how soft his hand was. And then I went to sleep. And that's
Wow.
a night I normally wouldn't have slept. So even in the darkest times, you can look for what's right.
Wow.
Rather than just focusing on what's wrong. And it's a practice, which you talk about. You have to have a daily practice. I just love this one so much and share that story in the book.
That is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it with us here today. It's, yeah, you know, when you said that you had the prosecutor in your head going, well, what are you going to find good about this day? I thought the story was going to end there. But it's amazing to think that even on a day such as that, you were able to find special, precious moments that were so powerful. And people are agreeing. I'm reading comments. Susie says, I need this book ASAP. Ashley says, lovely. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Elizabeth says, I love that accurate thinking. A lot of people are vibing with your idea of accurate thinking, Dr. Raymond. Looking at more comments. JD says, this is so good. So good. I'm learning so much. I love reading these comments, guys. A lot of love for Castaway, the movie too, popping in there. A lot of movie talk, which is awesome. Amazing to see all your comments flying in, everyone. If you're enjoying this conversation, we are literally skimming the surface. Dr. Daniel Amen's brilliant, giving us an overview of everything he's covering inside the book. Your brain is always listening. It's available right now. Head over to Amazon and order the book if you want to dive into these stories and learn more about these dragons, which I think all of you do right now, what I'm seeing from the comments. And also, Daniel Amen, I think a lot of people are thanking you for sharing that story about your father. Thank you so much for being so open with us as well. You know, I think this message is something that everyone needs right now. The story you just shared, I think so many people have experienced something like that in the last 12 months, that this is exactly the message we need right now. Sometimes people feel that it's easier to, like, it's almost like things are too hard right now to be working on hard things. But as you and I know, there's never a better time than to work on things when things are hard. How do we get motivated and focused to read the book, to study, to get the most out of it, when everything about us is like that prosecutor in our head saying, you know what, you just need to take it easy. Now's not the time to think about all this hard stuff. It's too difficult. It's too complicated. Just relax. Just watch TV all day. Switch on a show. How do we find that motivation and courage and inspiration, Dr. Raymond, to actually commit to a new path in our lives?
You know, it's always harder to be sick than to do the hard work to be healthy. And we have habits either way. You know, we either have habits that serve us or habits that hurt us. And I like for a year on creating tiny habits for brain health. So BJ leads the Persuasive Tech Lab at Stanford. And he always talks about tiny habits. Smallest thing I can do today that will make the biggest difference. Mm-hmm. And doing the right thing is never about you should. That's the should and shaming dragon, which, interesting, I opened the book with the story of me and Miley Cyrus. So Miley came out last year. I've been her doctor for the last 10 years. And at the beginning of the pandemic, she called me up on a Sunday night, completely freaking out, like everybody. And as I walked her back from the ledge, one of her dragons was the should and shaming dragon, almost feeling bad for having the advantage to protect herself. And we always talk about replace should with I want to, or it fits my goals 2. And then she and I did an Instagram Live the next day, and she turned that pain into purpose, which I just loved for her. She then went and did, I think, 40 Instagram Lives with her friends talking about how to manage this difficult time. But try to do the small things. You don't have to do all the big things. The small things, like start every day with today's going to be a great day. As you will go through your day, the one tiny habit for brain health, the one, it takes 3 seconds. Ask yourself when you're going to make a decision, is this good for my brain or bad for it? And if you love yourself, you'll start making better decisions, right? Sitting on the couch, that's bad for your brain. I mean, all the studies say, you know, if you're watching more than an hour of television a day, that's bad for your brain. When you go, you know, well, I'm anxious, should I have this drink or should I go meditate? They're both going to have a similar effect, except one hurts your brain, the other helps your brain. I published 3 studies on meditation showing it activates the dragon tamer, right? Your frontal lobes, and it calms the dragons. Meditation is that perfect balancing exercise. I don't know if we've talked about Kirtan Kriya meditation. It's a 12-minute Kundalini yoga meditation. Sa, ta, na, ma. 12 minutes. Sa, ta, na, ma. Birth, life, death, reborn. Birth, life, death, reborn. Amazing what it did. Activated the frontal lobes in our group, calmed their emotional brain in 12 minutes. And at 8 weeks, their resting frontal lobe function, dragon tamer, was stronger.
Wow.
So, yes, you can have a drink, but drinking alcohol, for example, messes up your REM sleep, the sleep that is restorative. So, yes, you can feel better now, but not later, as opposed to now and later. What's a better decision for you? Now and later. And it's a habit, right? And too often people go, I'm done with dinner. I'm going to have something sweet. I'm going to have a drink, as opposed to doing the right thing. I'm going to take a walk and then I'm going to meditate.
I love that. Dr. Damon, thank you so much for always blessing the Instagram world with amazing posts. If you all don't already follow Dr. Raymond on Instagram, please, please, please go and follow him. The posts are incredible. Dr. Raymond is my go-to person. Whenever I have a question about anything to do with mental health or the brain, and I want to know if what I'm hearing is scientifically correct or if the studies are on it, this is the person I go to. Dr. Raymond is my go-to person to check on any of these insights because everything that he's sharing is from studies, from research, but also from his very spiritual heart as well. So, Dr. Raymond, thank you for always being able to bring together these two worlds in such a special way. And all of you can now have access to it from his latest book, Your Brain is Always Listening. You know, I can't even remember how many New York Times bestsellers you have now, but this is on its way to become its next one. But if you want to tame that dragon, if you want to diagnose that dragon, and if you want to start working on some of these great ideas and insights, please, 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 you will not regret going and grabbing a book from my very dear friend, Dr. Raymond. And please go and follow him on Instagram because the posts that he has, that he shares daily, are really special as well. Dr. Raymond, thank you so much for joining me live for this. I'm so grateful that we got to share. All I'm seeing is positive energy. Haley says, I'll definitely be buying this book. Kaif says, glad I was able to listen to this. Thank you, Dr. Raymond, says Allison. Jesse says, thanks for such great information. I'm so glad that all of you joined in live today. We're going to leave this up on my IGTV as well, so you can watch this later. If you want to share it with a friend, because you got so much information out of this and you got so much insight out of this, then please, please, please forward it along. And please go and follow doc_Amen. That's DOC_Amen on Instagram. And go and grab a copy of the book. Dr. Raymond, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jay. Much love to you and all of your family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Give my love to Tana. Bye.
Bye.